Option routes, the backbone of the Bills' offense since drafting Josh Allen. Truly the springboard that catapulted Allen into stardom, but a philosophy that's led to a lot of consternation among Bills Mafia over the last couple years because of the issues that have arose, especially at critical moments in the game. Let's be clear, all offenses use option routes, but some use them more than others. The Bills fall in the category of using it more than the average team. And that's because of Allen and his unique arm talent. Allen has the ability to hit any wide receiver anywhere on the field at any given moment. So Brian Daboll tailored his offense to maximize that talent, and its roots have been carried on even after his departure. With option routes at his disposal, Allen essentially has the answers to just about every coverage, and even if he is half a click late on the read or doesn't quite anticipate a throw, he has the arm strength to overcome it. Philosophically, these option routes give the offense the upper hand, the tools to essentially beat just about any coverage on any given play, with one caveat, that the quarterbacks and receivers see the same thing. What they see is of importance, and that checklist for the players can get rather lengthy. Is it man or zone coverage? And if man, does a defender have help? And if so, where's the help? Is he playing with inside or outside leverage, press or off technique? If zone, what kind of zone coverage, and where are the voids in the coverage? These basic questions will determine the route by the receiver. Option routes should help the receiver find open grass, at which time Allen can hit him for efficient yardage. But this is a lot of heavy lifting for receivers in offenses like the Bills, because a lot of things must go right, sometimes at multiple positions, for what will amount to essentially the perfect play call to beat a coverage. And I think that's what separates the Bills offense from many other offenses across the league. They use option routes at the intermediate and deep levels and at multiple positions, all in the same play. Memorizing these route adjustments is a tall task, and taking it to the field is a whole other ballgame, which is why this offense is one that is very difficult to learn and even more difficult to execute.
Well, for number one is the most difficult offense I've been in. It's very hard to learn, but if you learn it, you'll have a lot of success. You know what I mean? So me just being in the offense, sitting back, watching everything, watching how many places you can be, it's all about your mental game. So the smarter you are in this offense, I feel like the more success you will have. So all depends on yourself.
The Bills' offense is an amalgamation of conceptual learning from the Patriots' old Erhardt-Perkins playbook with air raid and run and shoot concepts, including this run and shoot switch concept, or what the Bills call choice, a bread and butter play that Cole Beasley brought to Buffalo from his days under June Jones at SMU. This is generally a two-man route concept. The outside receiver stems inside and then has the option to run a seam, post, in, or curl. The slot receiver stems outside of the boundary receiver. This switch release is why it is generally called switch. As a receiver stems outside, he has the option to run a wheel up the sideline, a sit, or an in. And this is why Beasley was so good in this offense. He was a master at reading zone coverages and leverage. So let's start to dive into what receivers see pre and post snap. The Bucs show a single high safety look. The defensive backs are in off coverage. The motion by the Bills confirms zone coverage. The Bucs aren't really trying to hide that they're playing cover 3. That is, 3 defenders deep and 4 defenders underneath. Post snap, the Bucs send an extra pass rusher at Josh Allen. That means this is a cover 3 call, but there are only 3 defenders underneath. Davis recognizes the seam defender widen with Shakir, making this read even easier. Davis immediately sits as he clears the Bucs defender, who is screaming to the flats in this cover 3 call. The passing window is massive because of how the two routes stretch the defense horizontally, but also because of the blitz. As soon as defenses attempt to take away the seam read by the outside receiver, it can typically open up the wheel route up the sideline. Against the Lions last year, the corner got a bit nosy, and Allen was still able to hit the wheel to McKenzie from the far hash. Here's another good example, this one from the Broncos game. As a receiver switch release, the window for Davis looks open because the seam defender widens with Shakir. Allen begins his delivery and recognizes the defender plant and drive on Davis. So Allen reloads and hits the wheel route by Shakir up the sideline for an explosive play. We also saw this concept against the Eagles for another big play down the field. With the Bills backed up, Davis curls up the route near the numbers, and as Shakir approaches the break point, he recognizes the corner hanging low and playing with zone eyes. More importantly, he recognizes the deep half safety hanging on his landmark flat-footed. Shakir did a great job of reading the coverage and understanding that he could out-leverage the corner vertically and the safety horizontally. And Allen, of course, flashed that arm arrogance by threading it in there to the second-year player. How about this play against the Bengals? Shakir was able to shake loose against Mike Hilton, one of the better nickel defenders in the league, on a wheel route. But this play is a little different. This concept is phenomenal against man coverage, because as a receiver switch release, the inside defender has to decide if he wants to undercut the rub by the outside receiver, or play it over the top. And regardless of his decision, the slot receiver has a counter. As I stated earlier, in the choice concept, the slot receiver has the option to run a sit, wheel, or in route. And that in route is deadly when defenses are in man coverage. The Bills ran this iteration more last year, but Josh was inconsistent. It was almost as if he didn't want to throw it into tight windows. But in several of these clips, most from last year, you can see the in route from the slot come open because the defender wanted to play over the top of the outside receiver. And that's mainly because the wheel route is an option. Defenders do not want to get beat deep. This season, we saw Allen throw to the in route from the slot in the Patriots game. On the snap, Davis adjusts his route stem by attacking even more inside, nearly right at the defender, playing over Shakir. This forced the DB to work over the top of him and allowed Shakir to sneak underneath for a moderate gain. Good recognition by Davis, good throw into traffic by Josh Allen. So now go back to the play against Hilton. Hilton does a great job of waiting the combination out. He stays underneath the stem of Davis, but he also sits on the in route that Shakir could run against this coverage. So Shakir thinks on his feet. He crosses Hilton over and converts it to the wheel route up the sideline, and Allen hits him while on the run. Another route conversion in the choice concept is the in route. That's if the outside receiver sees green to the middle, or if the defense is in man coverage and the receiver believes he can run away from the defender. We saw that in breaker from Davis a few times over the years, specifically a couple times against the Vikings. Davis recognized man coverage with corner Patrick Peterson on his outside hip, so he converted the route over the middle and Allen hit him for the first down. As you can see, in the choice concept, the route depths and breaks aren't always consistent because the receivers are adjusting to different coverage looks, leverage, and even defender spacing. This also forces Allen to have to read out plays almost beyond the receiver's break, throwing it when he sees them open. So you can see why we say this isn't a rhythm or timing offense. The Bills also have a complementary concept that falls under the switch or choice umbrella. It's called Iowa. This concept attacks more vertically and, believe it or not, adds more to the outside receiver's plate. So on Iowa, pretty much just about every option from choice is on the table for the outside receiver. They can still run the curl, the in, the post, and seam. But two more route adjustments are added to help attack down the field. On Iowa, the receiver has the option to run a corner or bull route to the boundary. Since the outside receiver has options to run outbreaking routes, the slot receiver loses out on the wheel route that we have seen them convert on, because that would create spacing issues. So the slot receiver has the option to only run the sit and in route. This is the type of play that the Bills call against two high safety looks, where a majority of the outside receiver routes are going to be outbreaking in nature, like this play against the Jets last year. The receivers switch release, and the seam defender stays home. So Davis gets vertical. With the Jets showing a too high safety coverage, Davis runs a corner route. The slot receiver, McKenzie, recognizes zone coverage and executes a sit. So Davis and McKenzie just converted their option routes into a smash concept. The hook to curl the flats defender hasn't gained enough width, and the corner has surrendered some depth to space the high-low concept. So Allen took the low option. He rifled the pass from the far hash to McKenzie to set up a very manageable third down. Davis scored on the Iowa concept against the Dolphins in the 2022 playoffs. The Dolphins are playing a split field coverage look, with 3 defenders responsible for 2 Bills receivers to the weak side, and 4 defenders responsible for 3 receivers to the strong side. Once the ball is snapped, the seam defender tracks Diggs to the flats, then picks up Davis as he gets vertical. Davis recognized that the deep half safety had inside leverage, which essentially closed down the middle of the field. So Davis decided to convert the option route to a corner route. The cornerback Xavier Howard kept tabs on Diggs underneath, so he was not a factor as Davis got vertical leverage. Allen made this throw look so easy as the pocket was collapsing in his face, and with very little power from his lower body to generate the velocity needed on this throw. But look at that placement. My goodness. Davis also scored on Iowa against the Jaguars, with another dime by Allen. On this play, the Jags are playing cover 2 man. On the snap, Davis and Diggs switch release. The defender over Diggs works over the top of Diggs because the corner covering Davis immediately attached. So Diggs converted his route to the in. That caught the attention of the deep half safety, and it held the defender on his landmark. With the corner on Davis's outside hip and the safety sitting in the deep half of the field, Davis took the route to the pylon. Allen extended the play, stepped up into the pocket, and threw Davis open for the touchdown. As you can expect when you major in option routes and leverage reads, there are times where miscommunications happen. Moments in the play where the receiver will see the coverage or leverage differently than the quarterback, or vice versa. So far this season, PFF has charted 9 plays where the ball fell incomplete due to a miscommunication this season. Since 2020, Allen has 35 incompletions tagged as a miscommunication, which is ranked 4th behind Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Matthew Stafford. We see an array of concepts on the backside of plays that haven't worked and are chalked up to miscommunication, including this option or leverage read. The receiver will release outside and have the option to make it a go route or snap it off for a stop route, an easier version of an option route. The receiver is simply calculating whether or not he can run by the defender. If he doesn't believe he can because the corner has good leverage, then the receiver can snap the route off, or the quarterback can throw the back shoulder pass. On these sort of plays, the receiver senses the corner playing over the top and knows that he isn't going to run by him, so they convert the route to a stop. But Josh felt pretty early on in this play against the Bengals that Davis was going to be able to get by the corner. It makes you wonder if Allen predetermined this throw because of the man coverage and single high safety look. We must remember that it's the receiver that is ultimately making the decision about which route to run. It's the quarterback that is anticipating what the receiver is going to run based on the coverage and or leverage. The absolute decision on which route to run is in the hands of the receiver. If they believe they can't run by the corner, then they will decide to cut bait on the go route. These kind of miscommunications are slightly different than a receiver choosing to sit on a drive concept because there's a zone defender out in front of him. But they both highlight how important it is for the QB to see what the receiver is, but also reading the play or concept through. Because if you don't, when big moments arise and these calls are dialed up, you may fail to execute at the level needed, which could negate everything you have done up until this point, much like we saw against the Eagles. Okay, let's go back to the Eagles game. Third quarter, 10:42 left in the quarter. The movement by Dalton Kincaid uncovers that the Eagles are in man coverage. The Bills have their choice concept dialed up to the field, with Diggs' leverage route on the backside of the formation. So Allen has several options versus this man coverage look. Post-snap, Allen looked at Diggs and quickly realized that Diggs didn't have leverage on Slay, so Allen moved across the field to the choice concept. What's of importance to the choice side of the field is that the two Eagles defenders are in press man coverage, and as the receivers switch release, they are late to switch or banjo the coverage. So it didn't look like they were prepared. The corner, James Bradbury, decides to pass Davis to Eli Ricks, and then has to turn and locate Shakir, who is running the wheel route. Allen decided to attempt the pass to Davis, but botched the throw. A layer throw up and over is likely a touchdown to Davis, but if Allen had went even further in his progressions, I think he had Shakir for an easy touchdown on the wheel route. Fast forward to the end of the quarter, 1:48 left in the stanza. The Eagles show off-man coverage, with the Bills dialing up the same concept again. With the Eagles in man coverage, Allen decided to work the choice side on 3rd and 11. With off coverage, Shakir converts his route to the in, and Davis took his route to the post because of the leverage of the outside corner and down in distance. On this play, the Eagles stay in straight man coverage, no banjo or switch, because they are in off and soft coverage and can work through any rubs. With safety Ken Byard hanging in the low hole, Allen chose to bypass throwing it and took it into his own hands to scramble in for the 16-yard touchdown. Moving forward in the game, we're in overtime now, 9:25 on the clock. It's a 2nd and 9 situation, and the Bills dial up choice to the field and the backside leverage read by Diggs. Allen wanted to get the ball to his alpha receiver, and he and Diggs are on the same page, but the ball goes incomplete. But there should have been a flag on the Eagles, which would have awarded the Bills a first down. On the very next play, a 3rd and 9 situation, the Bills call the same play. This time they have Shakir motion across the formation, which uncovered man coverage once again. So post-snap, Shakir ran the in, as did Davis. And once again, the Eagles botched the coverage. Are they banjoing or not? Shakir is open, but Allen felt some pressure, so he escaped the pocket and hit Davis over the middle. So now we get to 3rd and 6 from the Eagles' 22-yard line. The Bills send out an empty set, but instead of Shakir and Davis to the weak side, it's Diggs and Davis. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady sends in Iowa. But because Allen expects man coverage, he told Diggs to just run an out route to clear it out. The Eagles showed a cover 0 blitz prior to the snap, but the Bills were ready. They had a check built in to bring Kincaid to help pick up any pressure looks. Remember, Davis has several options on this play. He can run the curl, in, seam, post, corner, or bull route. Diggs is locked into the out route. So now let's focus on the two defensive backs that are in coverage against Diggs and Davis. They are in off coverage, and as soon as Diggs shows that he's breaking to the flats, the defenders banjo the coverage. So while the Eagles screwed up against switch releases throughout the game, in this moment, they execute cleanly. This means that the outside corner isn't on the outside hip of Davis, like Allen expected. Instead, Slay is now in coverage, and he has the middle of the field shut down. This leverage forced Davis to convert it into one of the outbreaking routes, because when in doubt, break out. Davis broke to the corner, while Allen looked to throw it up the seam.
Yeah, it's an option route. They're in 0, so we max protected it. Understanding, they're coming to get me. I made a guess and I guessed wrong.
An unfortunate event at the most inopportune time, but something that is absolutely an outcome when you run as many option routes or leverage reads as the Bills do. It also makes you wonder, if Allen hadn't tweaked the play and Diggs was running the sit or in routes against this coverage, if he would have been wide open for the first down. Or if Allen and Davis could have connected over the middle, because the outside corner would have been on the outside hip, kind of like we saw several times earlier in the game. Or like when the Bills dialed up Iowa against the Chiefs for the touchdown, a play where the defender had outside leverage, so Davis converted it to the post, but was wide open because the two defenders tripped over each other because of the switch release concept. A lot of what ifs in this game against the Eagles in Week 12. Unfortunately, the Bills went on to settle for a field goal and lost the game because they weren't able to convert a big time moment in the Eagles' territory.